1, 2, 1, 2, here we go. Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast, raw, real, and unedited. My name is Jason, and all three of you can find us at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear this podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and Amazon. A catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that's what this podcast will do. Now, if you, yeah, I know you're still listening. If you'd like to be a part of this podcast as a guest or a contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. That's catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Welcome to episode 37 of the Catalyst Podcast. All right, so as you know, in the past, we first started off this podcast with delving into my journey through cancer, the good, the bad, the ugly, the honest, and we're now starting to go into some topics. I was playing around with some different kind of story types, and we're now just we're looking into these topics, and the last episode I talked about was functional freezing, and it also went into a blog that I wrote about, so they kind of dovetail off each other. And this week we are going to talk about something called psychological homelessness. Psychological homelessness. It's something not really necessarily on the lines of functional freezing, but it's the definite mind over matter piece. And I'm looking forward to kind of delving into this. And if you'd like to share, again, being a guest or contributor, send us that message over at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. But let's get into it, all right? Now, raise your hand if you've ever felt like you just don't belong anywhere. Maybe at work, in your friends group, even your own family. That feeling of being a square peg in a round hole. This has been my entire adult life. Always didn't feel as connected as I thought of, or I should be, with my family. Always felt like an outsider with my friend groups or work. And yes, a dork, an oddball. Now, some people might not see me that way, but it's definitely how I felt. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to unpack that a little bit further, because that, my friends, could be a sign of something called psychological homelessness. So let's jump in, okay? Now, before you start, picturing cardboard boxes and soup kitchens and all kinds of stuff like that, let me clarify, okay, what it is. Psychological homelessness isn't about where you physically live, right? It's not about that. It's not about where you physically live, right? It's more a state of mind. It's a feeling of disconnection, of not having a place where you truly feel accepted and understood. All right. Dr. Paul Tillich, a famous theologian, put it like this. The opposite of home is not homelessness. It's rootlessness. That resonates, doesn't it? Right? The opposite of home is not homelessness. It's rootlessness. All right? It isn't just about lack of a roof. It's about lack of roots. A feeling of not being fully planted anywhere. Always felt like a drifter, even even in my career, I went from town to town, place to place, through radio and, and just, I would never unpack boxes because I always felt like I wasn't destined to stay here long and I'm going to be heading off somewhere else. You ever feel like that? You ever feel like that? Like I said, a square peg in a round hole? Well, let's explore this a little further with a scenario, okay? So, imagine, we'll call her Sarah. Sarah's a brilliant artist who just moved into a new city. She's really excited about a fresh start. But as the weeks turn into months, she finds it hard to connect with people. Her artistic styles are kind of a little bit out there, and she feels that her jokes fall flat, and she starts withdrawing, feeling like she doesn't necessarily truly fit in. This isn't just about being shy. Psychological homelessness can come from a variety of experiences. Maybe you've had a difficult childhood, or you've faced discrimination, and that kind of left you feeling like an outsider. Perhaps you've gone through a major life change and haven't found your footing yet. Here's the thing. We all need that sense of belonging. Right? Studies have shown that social connection is just as important to our health as good nutrition and exercise. When we feel disconnected, it can lead to depression, anxiety, even physical health problems. So, you're asking yourself, buddy, my pal, what could we do if we're struggling with this? Well, let's get into that. Right? First, acknowledge it. Don't brush off those feelings of isolation. Okay? Reach out. Number 2. Talk to a friend, a family member, a therapist, or join a group that shares your interest. Building those connections is key. So, here's a cool story, okay? A guy named Alex who never felt like he ever quite belonged. Or you can call him Jason if you want. He decided to start a hiking group for introverts. It was a space for people who enjoy the outdoors but preferred quieter company. The group thrived, and Alex finally found his community. Right? Remember, finding your place doesn't necessarily happen overnight, folks, right? But the good news is you can build that sense of belonging. You have the ability to do it. And you deserve to feel at home, not just in physical space, but in your own skin. And with people that matter. All right? So let's recap real quick. Today we talked about psychological homelessness and that feeling of disconnection and not belonging. Okay? And we explored the reasons behind it and why it's important to address it. So, before we head out today, I want to leave you with a challenge for this week. I want you to take a small step towards building that sense of belonging. I want you to reach out to somebody. I know I would functionally freeze myself because of the anxiety I was having. And, kind of stay away from it. That I would let that anxiety build up where I wouldn't be able to make the right choice or be fearful of failing for making that choice. Because they're, like that movie Carrie, they're all going to laugh at you. No. Reach out to someone you haven't connected with in a while. Join an online community or even volunteer for a cause you care about. Remember, even small connections can make a big difference. All right. I love when I get to go to my treatment center in Moffat. And one of the things I like to do is just kind of spend a little time with some of the people who are there, who are, kind of the same age as me, maybe some a little younger, and talk about their experiences. I have friends who are currently going through it, and we have our own little community. Those of us who survived, and help those of us that are going through it, and kind of being that encouraging voice because it's needed. So again, don't be afraid this week to take that step, take that deep breath, and take that step forward. Everything begins. It all begins with the first step. And sometimes that first step can be super hard. We know that. We've been there. We've seen it. And you've probably seen other people struggle with it. But go out there and don't be afraid to fall. Don't be afraid to get bloodied. Reach out to someone you haven't connected with. There's so many places we can go virtually, online, that there are groups. It's so amazing how that works. From joining a group like a Moose or an Elks Club, or going into some kind of online community. Find your tribe. As a friend of mine says, find your tribe and rock your vibe. Remember, it's all going to make a difference for you in the end. And I hope this has been a very informative and very helpful piece. I really enjoyed this. Doing a lot of self-discovery, raw self-discovery on myself, and there are these things that have been popping up, and this has definitely been one of them. And like I said, I'm going to have a blog that I'll kind of go into a little bit more detail about it. So be on the lookout for that. But I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode 37 of the Catalyst Podcast, Raw, Real, and Unedited. My name is Jason. You can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and Amazon. A Catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that's what this podcast will do. Now, if you would like to be a part of this podcast as a guest or a contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. That's catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to the Catalyst Podcast. And thank you so much for listening to episode 37. We will see you on episode 38. Thank you again. Go be great.